Kia ora talofa namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Niche Cache. We are here to discuss Aotearoa sporting matters. You know what we do. You know how we do it. It's all about Aotearoa sporting matters. A lot of cricket to discuss. A lot of football as well. We're also going to touch on some quick hitters in a jiffy, but I do want to get your favorite kind of Blackcaps nugget, your favorite Blackcaps statty type of thing, because we got some we've always got legendary Blackcap stuff at the moment, and we've always got impressive youngsters on the rise. I did write about Samuel Morgan and Oscar Jackson for Wellington yesterday, because every Super Smash game is throwing up some impressive new young talent, or really good cricketers just doing some crazy shit as per usual. But then we got Daryl Mitchell, now averaging 58.47 in ODI cricket. And because I think you're going to go to a different pocket, but I do want to highlight this one, because not only does Daryl Mitchell have the highest ODI batting average for all New Zealand cricketers who have scored 1,000 plus runs, not only is he the only dude over 50, not only is he 10 runs higher than Kane Williamson. Who cares about Kane Williamson? We don't care about Kane Williamson anymore. We got a lot of fantastic batters filling that void, most notably Daryl Mitchell, who's also scoring at a strike rate of 95.7. Let's round it up to 96, whereas Kane Williamson's operating at 81. There are 8 batters, 8 Kiwis, who are averaging over 40 with 1,000 plus ODI runs. Kane Williamson's still a current player, so he's still there, even though what I said.
We care about him a little bit.
Yeah, not so much anymore. Devon Conway's on the list. Glenn Phillips is on the list. Rachin Ravindra's on the list. So there are 5 certified current Blackcaps who are in the group of 8 Blackcaps with averages over 40 for 1,000 runs. Daryl Mitchell, Kane Williamson, Devon Conway, Glenn Phillips, Rachin Ravindra. Let's take out Kane Williamson. We still got 4. Still of the 4, we still have 4 of the highest ODI batting averages for New Zealand are current players. This kind of helps frame for me respect to the previous generations, but then nowhere near as good as what we're seeing right now. And Daryl Mitchell's a good example of that, as well as the Glenn Phillips, Rachin Ravindra pocket, because those 2 dudes, I got to go down to Corey Anderson averaging a big old 27.7 with a strike rate of 109 to find another batter who has scored 1,000 ODI runs with an average, his average is 27 with a strike rate over 100. That means that Glenn Phillips and Rachin Ravindra are the only Blackcaps batters who have scored 1,000 ODI runs, have averages, let's say, over 30 and strike rates over 100. And Glenn Phillips, we've got to respect some Glenn Phillips stuff here, because he's averaging 42 in ODI batting with a strike rate of 103. That's a slightly higher average than Rachin Ravindra, but a lower strike rate, because Rachin Ravindra, he's cruising along at 107 strike rate. Obviously, it makes sense that the 2 youngest batters have the higher strike rates, because that just fits the trend of cricket. But you add in Devon Conway, you add in Daryl Mitchell, and let's add in Kane Williamson, the best ODI batters from New Zealand basically ever. There is a cluster of them who are playing right now. Daryl Mitchell's way higher than anyone else, pun intended. But also, big up Glenn Phillips, man. That dude's doing some great stuff with basically the same ODI batting record as Rachin Ravindra, and we know how we view Rachin Ravindra around here. Although I will say that Daryl Mitchell, he's just edged ahead as the best all-format batter in Aotearoa right now. Basically, for me, it's him and Ravindra just competing. Ravindra hasn't played much recently, and now he's going into T20 mode, which isn't his best format. Whereas Daryl Mitchell has just gone crazy. So Daryl Mitchell's in the lead. Daryl Mitchell is the best New Zealand all-format batter right now. Ravindra's in the mix, but also respect to Glenn Phillips and also respect to Devon Conway, because even though he's not, I don't really think of him as one of New Zealand's best batters right now, he's on the list. So shout out to him.
Well, like Devon Conway might be the fifth best batter in the ODI picture at the moment. And that's still pretty good when you consider who the four other ones that you just listed are ahead of him. And I mean, like even Will Young's come back into some form. Will Young's always been much better. Like ODI has been his best format since since he got into the Blackcaps. He had a couple nice innings towards the end there as well. I mean, these are good things.
Will Young averaging 36.46. That's a higher average than Nathan Astle, 34.92.
See, that's fascinating,
It's higher than Henry Nichols, it's higher than Tom Latham, it's higher than Grant Elliott, Jesse Ryder, Peter Fulton, Scott Storris, Stephen Fleming, Brendan McCullum, on and on and on. Because basically every past New Zealand cricketer averaged 30-something.
Yeah, basically. And if you're using using these stats to put together like an all-time Blackcaps ODI top six, well, the answer might be the top six we have now, but just with Ross Taylor in there as well. Like, Conway and Ravindra opening, Williamson at 3, Taylor can come in at 4, Mitchell 5, Phillips 6. That might be as good as it gets. That's. But when you consider the numbers these guys are putting up, the fact that a bunch of those guys were just involved in a ODI series win for the first time ever in India away, like less than 2 years after winning a test series in India for the first time ever as well, which a bunch of those guys, including Daryl Mitchell, Rachin Ravindra wasn't there for the ODIs, but Conway would have been. A few of them were overlapping. Kane Williamson not involved in either of those series.
Don't need
Relevant
him.
point as well. Yeah, there you go. But it's the Daryl Mitchell stuff that's sparkling the most for me at the moment, where it's like, what are we up to? I think it's like 5 of his last 6 innings, he's crossed 50. About 3 of them are 100s. The one he didn't was like a 40 odd or something like that. He's up to 9 ODI centuries now for his career. 4 of them have come in India against India, and those are his 4 highest scores. 2 of them coming within the last week. He actually has, let me see if I can find the statisticos here, the 3rd best ratio of innings to centuries in ODI history of anyone who's batted at least 30 times. And the guy who's number 1 is David Malan, who only batted 30 times. So if you raise that bar a little bit higher to, let's say, 50 innings, Daryl Mitchell is second only to Virat Kohli, which, again, if you look at the averages and you set the mark at 2,000 runs scored, highest averages, he's second only to Virat Kohli. In fact, he might have gone ahead of Virat Kohli with the way he boosted his average up with the 2nd century. He might have gone ahead, he would have gone ahead of Virat Kohli, I think, for about an hour or 2 until Virat Kohli also scored 100 in the 2nd innings, because Virat Kohli averages 58.71, Daryl Mitchell 58.47. Kohli's played like 6 times as many, at least 5 times as many games as Mitchell, so his average fluctuates a lot less for one century to another because he's got like 50 something of them. But Virat Kohli is the best ODI batter there has ever been. And statistically, Daryl Mitchell right now is second. He's second behind him in terms of averages. He's second behind him in terms of the ratio of centuries per innings. 16.7% of his innings he has gone on and scored 100, 9 out of 54. Let alone the fact that he's absolutely indestructible when he plays in India for some reason, which next to no New Zealand batters have ever been able to claim that before. It's like, this is this is not normal stuff. This goes beyond just like, yeah, we got a good Blackcaps team. We got some good players putting up good, consistent performances. Like he's doing things that people in the history of one-day international cricket have not achieved.
Still doesn't have a duck either.
And he still doesn't have a duck. Second longest active streak without getting a duck, and he's working his way. He actually doesn't have the New Zealand record though. I think Craig McMillan and Chris Cairns both got to like 67 innings before their first duck, and Mitchell is at 54. So he's working his way there. As long as he gets to play 14 more ODIs at this rate, probably, he has a chance. He's actually only got one duck in, I think, 50 something innings in Test cricket as well. He does have a couple in T20s, but you can't really judge that in T20s. You got to be ready to risk your wicket from ball one. Shout out to Henry Nicholls in that regard as well, because his very sacrificial, selfless golden duck in the third innings to make sure Daryl Mitchell and Will Young got in there a little bit earlier. That's what the team needed in that moment. It's what he gave them.
Team first.
That's it.
I've got a list of 49 Blackcaps here who have scored 1,000 runs. All of them have a duck except for Daryl Mitchell. So shout out the Dazzler, Daz Mitchell, and shout out to Daryl Mitchell, because him, like many of these other Kiwi cricketers, love playing for New Zealand. And it's a theme we're seeing quite heavily, whether it's the youngsters, whether it's the older players. They love representing New Zealand. They love winning games for New Zealand. They love performing for New Zealand. Playing cricket for New Zealand is the pinnacle for these cricketers, and we see it in the passion. We see it how they celebrate these moments, because for them it's the biggest thing in cricket. And there's a lot of these players are talking about, we want to play cricket like Kiwis. We want to do it the Kiwi way, which literally everything they're doing on a cricket field is a representation of how Aotearoa sports operates. Like, these are Kiwi sporting fundamentals that you're seeing, because the Blackcaps were the better fielding team. The Blackcaps ran better between the wickets. The Blackcaps scored more runs down the order. Right, this is how Kiwi sports operates. That started with a different geezer, though. It started with Brendan McCullum. And shout out to Brendan McCullum, because he kind of delivered this euphoric Kiwi style of cricket. And I was thinking, that's why it's not working for England, because you can't make England play cricket like Kiwis. Because the beauty of this is, not only are the Blackcaps playing like Kiwis, representing Kiwi in a sporting sense, but they're representing the nation and all the people, all the cricketing communities around Aotearoa, the grassroots cricketing regions. And that responsibility is very intense for these players, I believe. But they're doing it in a Kiwi way. That's what Brendan McCullum started. So respect to BMac for doing that. Shout out to Natty Mac as well, because Brendan McCullum once had dreadlocks, and we can't forget that. Jar bless. It's not going to happen for England, because what is the English style, first and foremost? Like, how are you going to represent England? What are you doing that is English? How are you playing cricket that is the English way?
They're whinging a lot. That's a start,
They're here to save cricket, and they whinge a lot. So maybe they are doing it the English way. But Brendan McCullum's success as a leader was about getting Kiwis to represent Aotearoa as a nation and in a cricketing focus. Like, none of that is none of that is aligned with England cricket. So I did find that interesting, because they were talking a lot about representing Aotearoa, doing it the Kiwi way. That started with BMac, and it all kind of makes sense looking at the way the international cricketing landscape is, because what does Australia do? They represent Australia. They play cricket like Aussies. They're doing it the Aussie way, which is very different to the Kiwi way. And that's why Australia is kind of scary. Because when Australia plays sport like Aussies, it's pretty difficult to come up against. Big winning weekend for the Wellington Phoenix. Fantastic weekend. It was so good that I think Matt Sheridan's awesome. That's how good the weekend was for the Wellington Phoenix. I was watching Matt Sheridan play left back, right back, and just doing his job. Fantastic. Kind of crazy. And like, this is the up and down roller coaster of Aotearoa sport, and delivering sizzling hot takes. Young player doing his job in two sides of the field. Like, those are New Zealand Warriors versatility levels. Those are players just doing their job for the Blackcaps levels. So shout out to Matt Sheridan. Shout out to Isaac Hughes, because that dude is La Pared. He is the wall. He is the blocker. I did want
And
it
a
to,
goal scorer.
and the and
2
the
weeks
goal
in a
scorer.
row.
I did want it to be Bill, because then you can go like the blocker Bill blocker type of stuff. But Bill Tuiloma also played. Shout out to the Oso. What was your fate? Oh, I'm going to ask you, but I think I already know. It's got to be the woman, the youngsters for the woman. Because I was also thinking about this, because the previous Wellington Phoenix women's team and coach was all about developing young women, right? Young players. It was a very young centric.
Every previous coach, basically.
Yeah, it was all about the young players. It was all about the academy. It was all about developing these players and maybe shopping them out, make a bit of money. And that was evident in their performances, because young players played like young players. Bev Priestman is a winner. We've seen it. She comes from the highest levels of women's football coaching. So we're seeing that at the highest level. You've got senior players contributing. You've got a ruthless style of football. They have the best defense in the Women's A-League. They've only conceded 8 goals in 10 games. Every other team has conceded 10 goals. So you've got a fantastic women's football coach who has laid out the foundations of success, which is elite defense. But that ruthless, winning coach has also created an environment where 2 young players from the National League are just straight into the team doing their job. It's the same concept as the previous Wellington Phoenix women's teams, because they were getting young players to move into the A-League, but the performances are way different. And I think that is a credit to Bev Priestman as Wellington Phoenix coach, and also a credit to Pia Vlock, who we've talked a lot about, and Zoe Benson, who,
Nice one.
as you've told us a few times, she was the National League MVP while 18, 19 years old. And before that...
Grand final MVP, yeah.
Grand final MVP. Before that, Pia Vlock was the grand final MVP as a 16, 17-year-old. These players have gone straight from National League as teenagers to, again, like the Kiwi cricketers, contributing to winning performances for the Wellington Phoenix women. Both of them scored the goals. I think that was in Canberra over the weekend. Might have hijacked your favourite Wellington Phoenix thing there right then. But fantastic weekend for the Wellington Phoenix women. What's your kind of takeaway or main idea coming away from that?
Yeah, it's got to be that. As much as I did like seeing Bill Tuiloma debut for the Blokes, as much as I did like seeing, did enjoy seeing Paulo Retre actually get to play in centre midfield for the first time in a while. That was nice of him, even if it was later in the picture. I thought, man, Draker James, Isaac Hughes had fantastic games in that one. Also, I tell you what, I thought that was the best Damon McCarron has played. Really, there was one in the first half, really courageous, diving out and getting kicked in the chest and battling through. Not as many saves required, but the bravery and the sort of I belong here. This is my penalty area. I own this place. He's been pretty good under the high ball since his debut, so that hasn't changed. But he's just this is another young player thing, right? You can see each subsequent game, you can see the ways in which he feels a bit more comfortable, and you can see why he's getting these opportunities. The more you see him play, the more you start to see this is the real goalkeeper. This is the guy Chiefy's been seeing in training. This is the reason he's getting these games, is because he's there's a heck of a goalkeeper in there.
I agree. I Oh, we got so much goalkeepers, and I think that's part of it. We'll get into the Auckland FC conversation later on, but like we got so many goalkeepers. We got so many good goalkeepers. I don't know who's better because, like, I mean, I think I saw Albie Kelly Heald and Chiefy do their own handshake on the sideline. So obviously, Albie Kelly Heald has a good relationship with the coach because they had a special handshake, and he's another youngster at the Wellington Phoenix who is behind McCarron. And it was like, you think back to when Oluwayemi got injured. We've seen this so many times. Like, oh, this player got injured for the... Like, Metcalf got injured for the Warriors. Sure, they weren't as good, but they held steady. They didn't fall off a cliff as everyone was predicting they would. Players depart. They don't fall off a cliff. They hold steady. Oluwayemi gets injured. It's all good because one of the youngsters is going to step up and do their job. And McCarron... Yeah, his physicality is the most important thing for me in that regard because he is the A-League is a brutal league. They're playing rugby on a football field, and McCarron is just part of that ruck. You know, he's just always involved in the physical stuff, and that's what I love about Eamon McCarron. So shout out to him. Shout out to the Wellington.
But last year that was Albie Kelly Heald. Last year, Oluwayemi got injured, and Albie Kelly Heald stepped up and played. You know, had like a month of very good performances, and was actually keeping Oluwayemi on the bench even after Oluwayemi was fit again. Now, just because he was injured for himself for a while, and McCarron sort of hasn't done anything worthy of being dropped. It's not even a case of Chiefy saying like McCarron is better than Kelly Heald. It's a case of saying, well, McCarron is in position. He's like the incumbent now because he's done the work through preseason. It's not your fault you were injured, but you still have to you have to overtake him now because he's come in and done nothing wrong. And they were both in the matchday squad here. So they've clearly got two young goalkeepers, both of them 20 years or younger. I think one's 20 or one's 18, who he clearly trusts, who have performed at A-League level. And I mean, do you know who the last two goalkeepers to keep clean sheets were for the Wellington Phoenix? I'll give you a clue. Joshua Aliemi is not one of them.
Oh, that's a weak spot of my fresh off the top of the dome sporting knowledge. I can't think of Wellington Phoenix men goalkeepers. I know there was maybe a Glenn Moss.
Well, Aliemi does have at least one clean sheet back in the day. So started last season, he kept a couple. So not a trick question.
Yeah, but Glenn Moss played for the Wellington Phoenix as a goalkeeper, right?
Yeah, but he's not one of the most recent to keep a clean sheet. He did play for the Phoenix.
No, I was just thinking of names to drop off the top of the dome so I look like a footballing expert, right? Like, that's all I'm trying to do. Yeah, like this.
What was that English guy that played for a bit? Oh, don't forget old mate Philip Curto.
Curto, yeah, remember that one?
Alex Paulson.
Remember that dude.
Big mix of goalkeepers have come through the Wellington Phoenix. Jacob Spoonley.
Shout out to them. But also we've got another dude. In case you just paying attention to the mainstream media where it's all about all these other sports that aren't as cool as the youngsters rising up through Aotearoa sport, and obviously we're here to discuss the firing of Razor Robertson in depth and detail. Who gives a shit? Because we got a dude by the name of Sam Ruthe, 16-year-old. Not to be confused with Pierre Vlock, 17-year-old, Leka Halasima, 18, 19-year-old in the NRL, and all these other crazy young Kiwi athletes. Sam Ruthe, he's been on the radar for a while. Not only our sporting radar, but also the international athletics radar, because he is tracking as a legend. Like when you get into the nitty gritty of his times, of his records, of his achievements so far, he is tracking as a global athletics legend. Just entertain me here. Was Sam Tanner the guy who did the pukana at the Olympics? Long distance runner. He was lining up on the start line, did a pukana.
Yeah, it was either him or Geordie Beamish. It might have been Sam. I think it was probably Sam Tanner.
So he was in the last Olympics. representing
He was.
Aotearoa. And Sam Ruthe beat him. All right, I'm not an expert on athletics. I don't know like what specialized event, like what event Sam Tanner specializes in. Not sure what event he was doing the Olympics in. I'm not necessarily on top of how how these specialized events match up for the recent activities. 16-year-old Sam Ruthe beat one of our distance runner Olympians over the weekend. That's crazy. I need some more information. What do you know about this?
Well, I love the role that Sam Tanner's playing in this, first and foremost, because I think he's doing just an incredible job of mentoring this dude. And there was the story when Sam Ruthe broke I think he became the youngest person to run a sub 4 minute mile, whatever it was, last year. Sort of put him on the map a little bit. He'd already been doing some crazy stuff, but here's a record that everyone can sort of, hang their head on to build their coverage around. And there was a story there about how Nick Willis ran ran the pace for him when Sam Tanner first ran under, which was several years older than what Sam Ruthe was when he did it. But when he first ran under 4 minutes for a mile, it was like Nick Willis was there guiding him through it. And then he did the same, passing it along to the next generation with Sam Ruthe, which I think is beautiful. But then also he's kept doing that. He's racing in all these same races. And of course you want to, because he's like, where else in New Zealand are you going to find that level of competition? You're not. Like these are the two best runners now in these events that are competing currently around the traps in this country. And Ruthe, I was checking to see like what he's done overseas, because it is something like these records are getting picked up by global athletics media type stuff. Like he has a reputation now. And he has raced a little bit overseas. Like he's raced in America, he's raced in Australia, but not a lot. So I was wondering, like, when do we start to see him? And it might not be for a couple of years. Like, when do we start to see him doing stuff at like major event type things? Not even like, we're not expecting him as a teenager to go in and win Olympic medals or anything, but like that. But like the experience to get used to that kind of thing, knowing that down the line, that is the kind of future that you'd have to project for someone who is breaking the types of records that he is breaking at the age that he is. And doing that research, it turns out there's a World Indoor Championships in about 2 months, and he actually just qualified for it through his 1800-meter race on the weekend, in which he did beat Sam Tanner. So, yeah, I love the mentorship role that Sam Tanner seems to have. I think they train together. He's very much like a major factor in what Sam Ruthe is doing, but it's also, I'm guessing, challenging Sam Tanner in a way that is very effective to where he is with his career. He does, like, that was an 800-meter race that he beat him at. Tanner normally races longer events, so that is a factor. Like, that's not his specialty event. He's more like 1500-meter plus type runner, which those guys do run a lot of 800 meters, because that's how you work on your sprinting for like the last lap, those kind of things. And he did get out sprinted on the last lap by Sam Ruthe. So great stuff. But yeah, like Sam Ruthe apparently has qualified for World Indoor Championships if he wants to go to them in a couple of months. So it sounds like that those kind of tournaments, those kind of events, those kind of meets, he's getting close. So where we might actually start to see him, participating, lining up in some senior major like global events as a 16-year-old. Crazy stuff. He also, like, that was a New Zealand record for 16-year-olds on the weekend there. I think must be under 17, yeah. So that was a new under 17 record that he set in that race. It was also a new under 18 record, because no 17-year-olds have run faster than that in that length for New Zealanders. It was also an under 19s record. It was also an under 20s record. So he's beaten everyone, for like every other New Zealander who's run a competitive 800 meters that has been, timed and recorded through history. He's run faster not only than anyone of his age, but anyone 3 years above him as well. And if you think that's impressive, He did the same thing 2 weeks ago in the 1500 meters, broke all four of those records. He's the New Zealand record holder, under 17s, under 18s, under 19s, and under 20s in 800 meters and in 1500 meters. All eight of those records he holds himself. Like youngest guy to run a sub 4 minute mile. This goes like this is phenomenal stuff. This is not just an impressive guy. This is what we're saying about Daryl Mitchell setting all-time records in ODI for anyone. Like these are things that no one in other countries have ever done before in many of these cases. So yeah, I don't think it will be long before we start seeing him running in some of these running against the best of the world and starting to test himself even at a very young age.
He's got to do it against Australia and England and India, though. New Zealand's got small boundaries and friendly pitches and all this stuff. Also, equally as impressive, the Breakers had a win. Shout out to them, away to Cairns last week. But they're still not in the play-in tournament, let alone certified top locks for the playoffs. They need to be in the top 6 to get into the play-in tournament. They're currently 7th. There does seem to be a little buffer between them and Illawarra Hawks, and a small margin between them and the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. I will say Cairns are second to last, and that's who they had their win over most recently. Any notable update for the Breakers of Aotearoa, who are kind of just chilling in a pool of meh?
Yeah, they've won a couple games in a row, but that was after a bad losing streak as well. So they're running out of time. But they needed that win on the weekend, and they got it, and it was a pretty impressive one where it was one of those ones like we saw when they had a few wins midway through the season, and it was like they had this thing wrapped up after 3 quarters, just had to manage the fourth. They did have a close fourth quarter win previously, so that was something they've only done like twice in the entire campaign. Yeah, they're running out of time. They're 2 wins behind Tasmania, but they've only got like 3 or 4 games left. They do have a game in hand against Tasmania, so if they win that, they can make it 1 win behind. It is getting towards that point where they might need to win all their remaining games to get into the play-ins. We'll see if they're capable of that, because one thing about their season is that, yeah, a lot of their wins have come against teams like Cairns or Illawarra, who are below them on the table, although at the same time, they also went 1-3 against last place Brisbane Bullets. So if they do miss out on the top 6, you can look at 3 of those losses against the Bullets as being pretty substantial towards that. Also, Cairns were without Sam Wardenberg, who I talked right up about the great form he was in coming back from injury, playing for the Taipans in the Monday newsletter, I think. And then knowing that he'd gone off injured in that game, but it was like the Sabitra Bandari injury for the Phoenix where we talked her up after that. It was like, yeah, well, we're not gonna hold back the praise just because there's a chance this might be an injury. We don't know this. We're not the doctors there. We don't know the severity of them. Turns out they were both quite severe. Sabitra Bandari Samba's out for the season with an ACL. Wardenberg, it's more like a high ankle sprain, but because the season only has like a month left, he's not coming back before then. Which means next time we'll see him, we'll probably be playing in Puerto Rico again during his off season, where he was awesome last time and then didn't get to show that very much this season because he was just injured for so much of it for Cairns, but was great when he did get an opportunity. But that was the team that the Breakers beat. However, if they make the top 6 from here, they're going to have to beat some teams above them. I'm not sure what their remaining roster is. If I can see that. Where are we? Wednesday they're away to Southeast Melbourne. Then they've got Adelaide, Melbourne, both at home. Why there's so many games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 games left. One of those is Ignite Cup, so that might not be a league game, the Wednesday night game. I don't know how that thing works because it didn't feel very inspired by the concept of Ignite Cup, but actually the Breakers have been really good on those Wednesday night games, so maybe they can win something there. And even if their NBL form doesn't quite see it through to the line, perhaps they can win an Ignite Cup and get a nice little payout bonus and at least have a trophy in that regard. And then Petteri Koponen can have something to show for his time at the team, because right now I'm struggling to see how they could justify re-signing him. I did notice on the game on the weekend though, because that was the, what do you call it? The Hoops Fest. Hoops Fest. Everyone went and played in Perth. The version of, Unite round, etc. And Dylan Boucher was sitting there on the sidelines having a big old yarn with Sean Marks. So perhaps, I don't know, Sam Menenga to the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe we can see that happen.
Yeah, or he's learning how to suck. Because Sean Marks and the Brooklyn Nets, they suck, and they've sucked for a while. I do have the NBA standings right here. The Brooklyn Nets are 12 and 28 in the NBA, and Sean Marks stopped inspiring me a long time ago. Steven Adams is injured. Just quickly, he suffered a ankle injury recently. Seems to be an ankle sprain. Houston Rockets are 25 and 5. They're 5th in the Western Conference, so they're still in the mix there. And Steven Adams was already, his minutes were already being managed through this NBA season, as well as his involvements. He's got a couple of DMPs, and he had a stint playing 30 plus minutes, 3 games in a row. Before and after that, there was far less minutes. So it seems like you never want to be injured, but it's a good opportunity for him to rest up and recoup in a ridiculously long NBA season without having to manage him. He's just out injured, so you can just take that time, and I don't think it will have a major impact on Houston Rockets in the NBA playoffs, and then we can get the big Funaki back in action as the NBA season finds some importance.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the reason why it's been difficult to get fully invested in this Rocket season, because it just feels like they're a good enough team to go straight through in a high seed to the playoffs. Maybe not as good as Oklahoma City, not a team that deserves to be favorites or anything like that. But they're going to finish 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th or something like that in the West, and they're going to have a good competitive playoff series. And everything just seems to be saving for that, especially with Steven Adams, because you can see he's not on an official minutes restriction like he was coming out of his knee injury last year. There was sort of a 2-year protocol there, which he talked about a bit. It's first year is recovery, second year is management. He's off for that, but it's also he's a 30-plus-year-old center who plays the toughest minutes against the toughest guys. It's you can't just ask him to play 30 minutes every game. He has had games where he's done that when Sengun's been injured. He's had to step up, sure. But they've sort of kept him in check, and it's always felt like there's this eye on, let's make sure he's as fit as we can for the playoffs. But it's an 82-game regular season. It's a long time to wait, So, yeah, it's a little bit annoying to see him on the sideline for the next few weeks. But I don't think it really changes anything.
Righto, let's take a wee break and get some mindfulness into our mind, body, and soul.
Radio. Mind, body, and soul. Ram Dass. Quote goes, "A feeling of aversion or attachment towards something is your clue that there is work to be done."
A feeling of attachment towards something?
Or aversion. I actually like the aversion bit better. It's once you start feeling negative towards something, you realize, well, hold on. There's work to be done here. I'm projecting something upon this person or this thing, which, even if it might be morally deserved, doesn't mean that you need to poison yourself with your own aversion towards something. You've got work to be done, because that's a sense of attachment as well in itself, I guess. Attachment happens in all shapes and forms, and that is that's one of the core tenets of Buddhism, isn't it? Is shed your attachments so that you can be free of them.
Yeah, attachment. Aversion does sound a lot like attachment, because attachment can be. I think what that mindfulness is getting to is the awareness, though. because how can you know you're attached to something if you don't have awareness? How can you know you have an aversion to something if you don't recognize it? That's where the mindfulness comes in, because the moment you start tapping into the mindfulness in whatever manner you want to do it, because there's so many different ways to slow yourself down, get some awareness of your thoughts and your processes. Well, before you reach that, maybe that's the enlightenment, it's just a little bit of awareness is the enlightenment. But before you reach that moment, you're just like, looking back, when you do reflect on your life, and you're like, I had no awareness. I didn't even know what I was feeling or thinking. I didn't even know how these different patterns were appearing. But then you get into some awareness, which easiest way to do it is a very small amount of meditation. Then you start, oh, yeah, I am attached to that. And sometimes it's cool to be attached to something. Sometimes it's cool to have an aversion to something, because I have an aversion to the cricketing cartel and many other very annoying, frustrating, ridiculous matters in the world. But if you have a little bit of awareness about it, then you can flip it into gratitude is the easiest thing you can do. So you can change those processes. But attachment's one of the craziest things in the world, because everyone's attached to their phone, right? No one can, very few people can overcome their attachment to their phone, which there is so much evidence that maybe being addicted to your phone isn't that good for you. But even then, people don't want to lessen that attachment.
Yeah, I mean, I read a bunch of stuff recently about like how people don't know how to read anymore. Yeah, that stuff is concerning for society. But you reminded me of a different quote there from Ram Dass that I didn't pick, but which sprung up when you're talking about like having the awareness of your attachments. There was one that was on the shortlist there when I was scrolling through them, which goes, everything changes once we identify with being the witness to the story instead of the actor in it.
Yeah, that's it all summed up there nicely by Ram Dass. You mentioned like you didn't say it, but the concern for society.
That's an attachment too?
It is an aversion, but that is the advantage you can have, right? Like these are we're talking about sports. These are things that you can use to your advantage, because if you can read a book, you are doing so much better than so many other people in the world. If you can slow down and have some awareness of your thoughts, you're doing so much better than most people in the world who are just on the rat race. They're losing their minds. They're depressed. They're anxious. They've got problems. Most people don't even know they've got the problems. But if you like, it seems so weird now, but like, if you just do some very basic things, you have major advantages over other people, because other people are addicted to their phones. They have no connection to nature. They eat trash food, and they wonder what's wrong with them. It's like, well, look at yourself, is what I tell myself, because these are things that I try to implement myself. I was a little bit like you took us down this path without actually getting to Thich Nhat Hanh, and as we move into some cricketing stuff, I do want to bring in Blair Tickner, the one and only Thich Nhat Hanh from the Kiwi cricketing realms, because he came back from injury and he took 2 wickets for Central Districts against Auckland. That was in Napier. He has wickets in every single innings of his last 10 games. And there's 11 innings here, and he's got wickets in all of them. Including 4 4-fers. He's got 2 2-fers, and he's got a couple of 1-fers. And we also saw Blair Tickner dominate the ODIs against England. Funnily enough, New Zealand is an excellent ODI team, and England suck at ODIs. So that has now been amplified by an ODI series win in India with a bowling attack of Kyle Jamieson, Zach Foulkes, Christian Clark, and Jaden Lennox, with Christian Clark taking the most wickets, Jaden Lennox being the most economical bowler. Meanwhile, Blair Tickner, Matt Fisher, Ben Sears playing Super Smash. Blair Tickner's just come back from injury, let alone all the other bowlers who are out injured, let alone Michael Ray, who was in that ODI squad against India but didn't play. So like that is like Blair Tickner's an awesome bowler right now, and he had nothing to do with that ODI series win in India. Matt Fisher and Ben Sears are our fastest bowlers aside from Will O'Rourke. They are our 3 fastest bowlers. Will O'Rourke's played ODIs, Ben Sears played ODIs, and one-day bowling is one of Matt Fisher's best formats. None of them were involved in the series against India. And this is the main pocket I want to focus on for the Blackcaps ODI series win against India, because yes, as we alluded to at the top of the show, a lot of focus and attention on the batters. And then I have seen like a lot of attention directed at Jaden Lennox, which is fantastic because Jaden Lennox was the most economical bowler in the series for New Zealand. He was the only Blackcaps bowler below 5 RPO. Christian Clark took the most wickets. As a seamer who's bowling 130, like this is our first time seeing Christian Clark with the speed gun on him. He's bowling 130, 131, 132 sometimes. None of the Blackcaps bowlers were bowling express, and it's in India. So like they don't necessarily have Sears, O'Rourke, Fisher pace. And somehow Christian Clark still took the most wickets. Like when you look at Christian Clark, when you watch him bowl, you don't think there is anything amazing about him. He doesn't have the height, Jamieson, O'Rourke and these dudes. He doesn't have the pace. He doesn't have the funky action like Zach Foulkes. He doesn't really have the funky movement like Zach Foulkes or like a Jacob Duffy. Jacob Duffy and Matt Henry, 2 other excellent bowlers who had nothing to do with this series win in India. And I did whip up a team of recent ODI Blackcaps who were not involved in India. And that team is bowler heavy. I did have to add in another batter, so Nathan Smith got the cut. He was in my squad. But we got Tom Latham, Rachin Ravindra, Reece Madu, Mark Chapman, Tom Blundell, Mitchell Santner, Matt Henry, Jacob Duffy, Ben Sears, Blair Tickner, Will O'Rourke. So it's a pretty awesome cricket team when we've got O'Rourke, Tickner, Sears, Duffy, Henry as our seam attack. It's a funny, cool cricket team. Christian Clark, it's not like an obvious skill set, right? Like, he doesn't smash you in the face as an awesome bowler. Kyle Jamieson, not only the height, but Kyle Jamieson moves the ball obviously both ways. And he also gave us a mana wave. Like, there's got to be one of my favorite cricketing moments of recent memory is Kyle Jamieson mana wave, as we can see right there. Big respect. I think we need a few more mana waves in cricket. I'd like to see it more. Kyle Jamieson did it in India, and they probably thought it was some religious gang sign.
Well, maybe it is.
It could be, but it also might just be
more of the emphasis on the religious than the gang sign, but you know, gangs come in shapes and forms. The gang of Aotearoa.
Yeah, but it's also very religious because it's from the religion of Aotearoa, and it is there to spread mana, positivity, wairua, and just awesome vibrations to all people in the vicinity. So I think every Indian in that arena should be grateful that Kyle Jamieson gave them mana wave and boosted their mana while their cricket team was losing to a fifth ranked bowling unit. Because that's the point here. Like, these bowlers, they're not getting anywhere. Like, Kyle Jamieson's the only one who'll be like, whoa, he could be in a first 11 for any format, right? Like, this is the combination of all these points that I'm rambling about. Kyle Jamieson, his talent is so obvious, his skill set is so obvious that you look at him bowl and you think, like, he might be in the first 11. He might be in the top tier bowling unit. But then you get into the nitty gritty and you think, well, he might not be better than Jacob Duffy, he might not be better than Matt Henry, and he also might not be better than Will O'Rourke. So I don't know if he is in the top tier seam bowling group, which is the point about Kiwi cricket, is we have 4, 5, 6 levels of such talent. But the leading wicket taker was a seamer, bowling early 130s, getting the job, taking big wickets. I think like 5 of his 7 wickets were top 6 batters against India. And I'm going to go game for game and tell you Christian Clark's wickets. First game, he got Harshit Rana out. And the Blackcaps lost that game. Harshit Rana banged a few boundaries, and Christian Clark went for 7.3 RPO off his 10 overs. That's a tough debut. He comes back the next game. He gets Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Shreyas Iyer out. Top 4. Christian Clark's dismissed 3 of them. Third ODI. Overshadowed by a lot of other stuff. What's Virat Kohli's most famous specialty in cricket?
Scoring ODI hundreds.
When?
All the time.
Specifically in run chases.
Yep, of course.
Who got him out in the 46th over? It was Christian Clark. So Christian Clark got Virat Kohli out twice in the series. He got Shreyas Iyer out twice in the series. He also dismissed Nitish Kumar Reddy, who was on 53 in the 28th over. Somehow in all of the like post-series wash-up coverage, obviously not by myself, but that I've absorbed, there has been very little mention of Christian Clark, the leading wicket taker, the guy who dismissed Virat Kohli twice, the guy who took most of his wickets in the Indian top order, the guy who doesn't seem to have any special, funky, quirky, excellent skill set. But that's Christian Clark. Because Christian Clark has been doing this in domestic cricket for a while, and that's how he has a one-day bowling average of 27.9, T20 bowling average of 27, first class is a bit higher, averaging 33. That's why he was called into the England squad and didn't play. He just ate popcorn on the side of the field. Now Christian Clark, like Michael Ray a few months ago, is in the Blackcaps. He's just there. Because Michael Ray was the second best wicket taker, I think, off the top of my head from the Test series against West Indies. Obviously, Jacob Duffy was the leading wicket taker in that series, and Jacob Duffy is one of the best bowlers from New Zealand over the past 18 months. Jacob Duffy is just a certified first 11 T20 all-format bowler for New Zealand. So we've got a few of these additions to the top tier, not the top tier necessarily because we've got 5, 6 tiers, but just part of that Blackcaps bowling group. Christian Clark's there as well. And I don't want to do what everyone else has done to Christian Clark to Jayden Lennox, because Jayden Lennox was excellent. I also think it's kind of interesting that Jayden Lennox might not even be the best left arm spinner at Central Districts, because Ajaz Patel's an awesome all format bowler. And like when Jaden Lennox started bowling, the commentators, Daniel Vittori, Mitchell Santner, wait till they see Tim Pringle. Who are they going to compare Tim Pringle to? Because he looks exactly the same as Dan Vittori and Mitchell Santner. What happens when Rohit Gulati starts playing for New Zealand? Right, like Jaden Lennox is an excellent cricketer. He deserves this opportunity. Did a fantastic job in India. Like the seamers, we got plenty more of these dudes coming out of domestic cricket because Ben Lockrose is the best spinner in Super Smash right now. He is a lefty tweaker for the Southern Districts of Aotearoa, also smashes the ball. Right there we got three younger lefties below Lennox. Tim Pringle, Ben Lockrose, Rohit Gulati. All have something special about them. Tim Pringle's already an international bowler for the Netherlands. Rohit Gulati is the best spinner this season. Tim Pringle was also excellent in Plunkett Shield. And Ben Lockrose is the best spinner right now in Super Smash. But Christian Clark was the leading wicket taker. And funnily enough, I think that deserves a special shout out. Because you take the most wickets in a series where the Blackcaps took more wickets than their hosts. I don't know what's the easiest way to describe this as I think about it. First game, India took 8 wickets, New Zealand took 6 wickets. Second game, New Zealand took 7 wickets, India took 3 wickets. Third game, India all out, New Zealand 8 wickets down. India didn't bowl New Zealand out in any of the 3 ODIs. And they took less than 5 wickets in one of those games. The Blackcaps bowled India out to win the series, and they took more than 5 wickets in the other 2 games. The Blackcaps were the better bowling team with Christian Clark, Kyle Jamieson, Jaden Lennox, and Zach Folks. That is crazy. That is more crazier than Daryl Mitchell being New Zealand's best ODI batter ever. That is more crazy than Glenn Phillips doing similar stuff than Rachin Ravindra. Ultimately, though, Christian Clark leading wicket taker, Jaden Lennox most economical bowler, that sums up how New Zealand won this series, and given everything we have said about the Blackcaps' depth, what more do you want? The latest bowler was the leading wicket taker in a very difficult, seam bowling environment. And he probably, what does Christian Clark do better than Matt Fisher? I don't necessarily know. What does Christian Clark do better than Ben Sears? I don't necessarily know. He's fit, he's available, and he's good at cricket. Because the other thing about these cricketers, we've seen Zach Folks score runs, we've seen Kyle Jamieson score runs. None of them scored runs like Christian Clark in the series. Because Christian Clark scored 35 runs at a strike rate of 159. Christian Clark had the highest strike rate for New Zealand in the series. Christian Clark scored more runs than Mitch A. He scored more runs than Zach Folks and Kyle Jamieson combined. He didn't have a 50-plus score, but thanks to the intricacies of goofy cricketing stats, he did have a higher average than Devon Conway and Henry Nicholls. And this is the thing about the style of cricketers that we're developing in New Zealand, because like Toby Finlay, seamer for Central Districts, I like what he's doing. He's got good skills, but the ball sticks to his hands as a fielder. He's a mover. He's a groover. He can probably bat as well. Yesterday, watching Wellington beat Canterbury, who have Cameron Paul, who's a good batter, and an excellent fielder because he bowls heat. There was a delivery where he bowled a bouncer to Tom Blundell. What do you remember about Tom Blundell batting in Australia?
Pull shot.
Cameron Paul bowled a bouncer to Tom Blundell and it hit him on the stickers. And Cameron Paul's fielding short cover, short mid-wicket, out on the boundary. right? Like these aren't your typical Kiwi seamer bowler who's just stuck at fine leg. Because then we also had Oscar Jackson playing for Wellington. Excellent cricketer. First game, 16 not out. Hits a 6. Second game, gets an opportunity to bowl. He's bowling pretty quick. He's bowling good bounce. He's got a pretty interesting action. It's like, these guys aren't just good bowlers. These guys are fantastic athletes with fantastic cricketing skills and intuition. But also, a lot of them, because I'm not going to say Matt Fisher's an excellent batter. We've heard a lot about Ben Sears, the batter. There's nothing to suggest that Ben Sears is a better batter than Jacob Duffy. And maybe based on not outs, because I love a bit of Will O'Rourke batting, I don't know if Ben Sears is a better batter than Will O'Rourke. But you have like more all-rounders. Because what did Christian Clark do in the Ford Trophy before being selected in the squad to play against England? He scored a century. Like the style of bowlers, the skills they have is very impressive. It's one of the most impressive things in New Zealand cricket right now. But most of these dudes are just awesome cricketers. And Christian Clark showed that on ODI series debut as the leading wicket taker and a very nifty lower order batter.
Yeah, that's crazy to think that the Blackcaps just had an ODI series in India, and the only time a team was bowled out was them bowling India out to win the series in the third game, which was also completed like as good as the bowling was, as unexpectedly good as the bowling was for such a sort of rookie bowling lineup. You made the point earlier as well about how the Blackcaps also just dominated in the field, and that game ended on a Glenn Phillips run out too, which is just like the way in which the fielding backed up the bowling and the batting backed up the bowling as well by putting good scores up. I think we won once by chasing and won once by setting a target. I think that's right. Second and third games. Just like those are the kind of traits that you get where a team is just like is firing on all cylinders. Everyone's got each other's back. Everyone is doing their job. And there were two guys in there who had never played ODI cricket before, who never played international cricket before. Clark had been in a squad before, but I think that was his first instance of actually playing. And then Jaden Lennox along with him, and then like Michael Ray would have been making an ODI debut if he'd gotten the game. He was in the squad as well. Like, missing their 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe of their best 6 bowlers, something along those lines. Didn't have Kane Williamson, who is another world-class ODI batter that usually plays ODIs. The T20 stuff was separate because he never played T20s before retiring. Usually plays the ODIs when he's around.
More importantly, Ruthe
Ravindra wasn't there. Like, Ruthe Ravindra is an even better one, who's top 10 all time in that what was I saying, the ratios of hundreds per innings, which Daryl Mitchell is third all time in. Second, if you scratch off the guy who, if you raise the barrier to like 50 innings batted or something, which I don't think Ravindra, if you did that, Ravindra falls off. So we've got to keep it at 30 to keep Ravindra in there. But he's top 10 all time as well, and like, he's got 530 something innings himself. We've got an excellent ODI team, and most of them weren't there, and they just beat what was a full-strength Indian batting lineup, maybe missing 1 or 2 bowlers, but also like, what's Jasprit Bumrah ever do against the Blackcaps? We're the one team he doesn't know how to bowl against, so maybe that doesn't matter that he wasn't there. 1 or 2 others, but that's like, it's especially funny because we came into this being like, yeah, it's a little bit of a development team. We don't need to worry about the results. And then they beat India in India, and now I want to worry about the results. I want to make a big deal about the results because it was so impressive how that team was able to do what no New Zealand touring team in ODI cricket ever has been able to do before in India by beating them in a series. And their team was a lot closer to full strength than ours was. So it's like there's no counterpoint to be made there. It was just a fantastic ODI series victory after losing the first game too.
And it is worth noting that Adi Ashok did play the first game, did take a wicket. He was a lot more expensive. Then they flipped to the more economical Jaden Lennox. But Adi Ashok's on his development journey. I would be interested to know how many players have played in the Test series and the ODI series wins combined, because that number would be over 30. And
how many played in both? That number would be
maybe not
small.
30. Maybe not 30.
Maybe we went for a few players in that Test series.
Yeah, maybe 25 or something. But
yeah,
that along with winning records in all three formats using 20 plus players since the start of 2025, that is another example of the depth and quality of depth we have in New Zealand. In summary, the best thing about this series win for New Zealand was the bowling, because I expect runs to be scored. And you can look at these Blackcaps stats and get the idea that runs are to be scored. Like, it is easier, especially ODI cricket and T20 cricket, the way they set up their cricket in India. It is easier to score runs. Like, Daryl Mitchell had 350 plus scores, 2 centuries, obviously. But Glenn Phillips had a 50, Will Young had a 50, Devon Conway had a 50, Henry Nicholls had a 50. 5 batters from New Zealand scored a 50. We've got 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 50 plus scores in 3 games of cricket. Michael Bracewell didn't hit a 50, but he had a strike rate of 122. Christian Clark didn't have a 50. He scored 35 runs, strike rate of 159. Mitch Hay didn't score big runs, but Mitch Hay, Zach Fox, and Kyle Jamieson all had strike rates over 100. So their production wasn't as high, but along with the strike rates of Bracewell and Christian Clark, that informs us about the batting environment. If you you could score pretty quickly even if you weren't scoring big runs. But the combination of the conditions, the environment, the strength and weakness of the New Zealand team, strength and weakness of the Indian team, as you said, it was a pretty good Indian team, specifically an excellent batting unit coming up against a depth bowling unit for New Zealand. Respect all the batters for everything they did. Obviously, we've gone in depth there. The most impressive thing was the bowling performances. That's why New Zealand won the series. And like Kyle Jamieson, he's back. He's playing a lot of cricket. He's looking excellent. He's doing his job. Zach Fox played his role. Like, aside from Jamieson, who did take 6 wickets, the most impactful bowlers were Christian Clark and Jaden Lennox against an excellent batting unit for India. Like, that is crazy. And that is a perfect summary of where the Blackcaps pipeline is right now. And I just thought that was being overshadowed by a few other factors, and I find it weird when the leading wicket taker in a series, in an environment where it's pretty tricky to take wickets and be effective against an excellent batting unit like India have, Christian Clark was somehow overshadowed by that. But ultimately, it's aligned with his List A career stuff. It's aligned with him being called into the ODI squad against England. And now Christian Clark, like Michael Ray, like Jaden Lennox, are just in the Blackcaps mixer.
Yeah, to put that into context, what these guys were up against. Virat Kohli is the best ODI batter ever. His average is 58. He's the only one who's batted 50 times or more in an ODI in ODIs and averages more than Daryl Mitchell. The only one. Shubman Gill averages like 54 or something like that. Rohit Sharma is about 48 and has 3 double centuries, including the highest ever score in this format. And Shreyas Iyer, did I say Shubman Gill or Shreyas Iyer before? Shubman Gill is in 54 odd, and Shreyas Iyer averages 46 and a half. Like, statistically speaking, and we've run through some statistics today, so here's another one. That might be the best ODI batting lineup in the history of the sport. Where else do you find that many high up averages, that many guys who can score as quickly as those guys all do as well? And they lost to Jane Lennox and Christian Clark, so yeah, boo-hoo.
Obviously, the Blackcaps are moving into T20 mode against India, then the T20 World Cup. But the main thing I'm just thinking about for this T20 series is what will Bevan Jacobs do? Obviously, dominant form in the Super Smash, 550s in 6 innings. What does that look like for this T20 series against India? Because he's not in the T20 World Cup squad. I personally don't have any issues with that because we're integrating Tim Seifert and Finn Allen, both of whom have been pretty good in the Big Bash League. Adam Milne has been fantastic in the SA20. Meanwhile, Kane Williamson has been doing his Babar Azam impersonation in the SA20, so we're not worried about that. Like, Finn Allen deserves to be in the T20 World Cup squad. No issues there. This is why Tim Robinson's not in the squad, but he is in the squad against India. This is just Blackcaps depth. Some players won't make the team, and if Finn Allen wasn't smashing runs in the BBL, he wouldn't be in. I'd feel a different way about it. But he was good. Given what we said about Bevan Jacobs and Tim Robinson, who he's averaging 19 with a strike rate of 141, 250, so he was going all right for Wellington. Not quite Bevan Jacobs levels. Their weakness was that they hadn't really done much overseas. They'd done one thing overseas together, but compared to the other batters in the mix, they are just far more, they're proven T20 hitters around the world. So how does Bevan Jacobs perform in a T20 series where he doesn't really have anything to lose? It's not like he's playing for World Cup selection. That squad's already been decided. What happens with Bevan Jacobs is my main thing heading into this T20 series. Do you have a main thing, or are you just focused on Bevan Jacobs or anything else?
I will be focused on Bevan Jacobs for sure. That probably is the main thing, but it will, because is Kyle Jamieson in this in the T20 squad? I know he's he's on standby for the World Cup squad.
I believe he is.
Because that's another one that I'm curious about, because I don't know that T20 has been particularly great for him.
He is,
but he bowled pretty well. He is the leader of the leader of the attack in the ODI series, so he's got a bit of a feel for it. And he is someone who, I mean, we could speculate. If someone gets injured in the batting lineup, yeah, Bevan Jacobs might get a call up, but they've already said that Kyle Jamieson is the next up guy, and there are a couple more bowlers. Well, we always have injuries to bowlers. There are a couple bowlers who might be under one or two clouds. If you got Ferguson and Milne hanging around, there's always injuries waiting to happen, even if it's midway through the tournament. So Jamieson in particular seems like someone who has a lot to prove in this series as well.
Super Smash is obviously happening. We don't really need to go too deep into it here and now because there's a lot of Super Smash coverage across the Niche Cage channels and platforms, so you can check in there. Aside from just the young talent that we are seeing around Aotearoa, obviously Women's Super Smash, We've got Zara Jetley and Jess Kerr leading wicket takers in the Women's Super Smash, and I think they're tied leading wicket takers in the HBJ Shield. Fantastic season for Zara Jetley. Obviously, Jess Kerr, dominant cricketer in Aotearoa as well. And yeah, we'll just wrap the cricket chat there and get into some more football. Let's start with Auckland FC, who had a 2-0 loss. Where was that?
Melbourne City.
Melbourne
Away.
City. Melbourne City are a decent team, and Auckland FC are allowed to slip up. And if the Auckland FC dip, shout out to the sudden dip, Troy Kingy, Lucky Lance, soul beamer to the right, sudden dip. The Auckland FC dip, right? This is the Auckland FC dip. First on the ladder with the second best defense. Tied for the second best defense, tied for fewest goals conceded, second fewest goals conceded. Right, like the Auckland FC
Shocking season.
The Auckland FC demise is them being top of the table. What? It is worth highlighting Melbourne City. They're fifth on the ladder, so it's not like Auckland FC were just smoked by a terrible team. And we've talked a lot about the best Auckland FC selection, first 11 and shape. I don't think we got that in this game, right?
I would say arguably not. And even if well, I mean, we had Nando Pinecker starting. That was nice. I think probably the best team has Jake Brimmer ahead of Felipe Gallegos in midfield. We did get that later on, but by the time that happened, by the time Brimmer got subbed on coming back from injury, Hiroki Sakai had gone off hurt. So we hope that's nothing serious, because he's already missed a chunk of this season, and he is like he's their best player and he's their captain. He's a big deal. But this was the first time we've seen them lose with the Sam Cosgrove, Lachlan Brook strike pairing. So that is something new and different. Perhaps that's the dip.
What was the word you used in mindfulness? The A word?
Attachment, aversion.
Aversion. My let's go A-League aversion for this week is my. I don't really know what he does, which is something I've said a lot is the weekly theme of my A-League aversion. But what does he do? You tell me. What does he do?
I don't know that I can, because I think what we've seen between last year and this year is a slightly less transitional team. You don't have Nader Moreno bringing a bit of, South American flair on the wing. They're more direct. Sam Cosgrove up front has changed the picture for them quite a bit. And I think this team has just moved beyond the style that Guillermo Mai was very effective at last season.
You did have a note in our newsletter, our Substack that drops every Monday and Thursday evening, thenichecase.substack.com. Auckland FC scored 1.9 goals per game last season and 1.5 goals per game this season. So there is a drop in their goal scoring ability. And that might be aligned with a change in style, might be aligned with getting some worse players into the mix. Ha ha ha. Because, if it's... I find it hard to believe Auckland FC are going to get better at goal scoring if they've got a striking combination of Sam Cosgrove and Guillermo Mai. And I think we've discussed that, because the most potent attacking weapon for Auckland FC right now is Lockie Brook. And maybe they've tinkered with the style, but again, they're top of the league. Like, these are minor issues for a team that just has a very high baseline. Like the Wellington Phoenix had a fantastic weekend. Wellington Phoenix men are 8th on the ladder. And Wellington Phoenix, Auckland FC, their defense is terrible. They've lost their defensive shine, and teams aren't scared of the Auckland FC defense anymore. All this stuff. Wellington Phoenix have conceded almost 10 more goals than Auckland FC. Same number of games, but the interesting thing is that Auckland FC have scored 19 goals and Wellington Phoenix have scored 21 goals. So to me, that outlines where the issue is for Auckland FC. But again, they are top of the league. And this was the third game in a row in Australia, right?
If not third in a row, third out of four. Yeah, third in a row. And fifth out of six. Because they had a run of 5 of 6 home games before that. Now they've played a run of 5 out of 6 away games afterwards, as the fixture list, as it always does. You didn't see that because I was off camera, but as the earphone dropped out of my ear, I caught that beautifully. Glenn Phillips sliding in off right underneath the vision.
Well done.
Yeah, as fixture lists tend to do, you play everyone home. Well, A-League is a little bit skewed because you don't play everyone home and away the exact amount of times because I think there's 3 rounds. But that does balance out. So you get a bunch of home games at one point, you're going to have a bunch of away games at another point, and that's what Auckland FC are going through.
And they will be at home on Saturday against Central Coast Mariners, who are second to last.
Second to last and completely broke. So,
yeah, they
should win that one.
I don't know, there does seem to be a little bit of stress about the Auckland FC trajectory at the moment, but it is, you got to know, they just had a concentrated group of games in Australia. They are top of the table. They still have one of the best defenses in the A-League, and they'll be back at home against a mediocre team that is broke on Saturday, back in front of their home fans. Home fans who they've been hot, they've been bothered, it's humid, it's rainy, it's summer. They might be watching a bit of cricket. They don't really care about the rugby news. They're there for football. They're there for Auckland FC soccer football. And they have been deprived of their weekly pilgrimage to the Temple of Mount Smart. Imagine if the Warriors fans didn't have a home game for 4 weeks or something mid-season. They'll be going crazy. So imagine how the Auckland FC fans are, who are... There is a section of Mount Smart, most notably the port, that is more lively and vibrant than Warriors crowds. But I think on the whole, Warriors crowds, all around the stadium, might be a bit more vibrant and healthy and lively. But that is to say, the port, Auckland FC fans, shout out to the Blue Riders. Haven't mentioned the Blue Riders in a while. The Blue Riders will be there to support their team on Saturday against the Central Coast Mariners. And I just think it's just an interesting patch of the season for Auckland FC. How did they go in this? So they had a loss last week. Let's just wrap up this away trip that they've had. If I can do that quickly, which I am trying my best to do. But it's not that easy when you're dealing with...
Well, I got him if you need him.
Yeah, well, hit us with the results. 3 weeks in Australia. How did the Auckland FC Blue Riders perform?
Well, immediately before that, they had away games against Central Coast and Western Sydney, which they won both of those. Came back home against Newcastle and lost. So a little bit of an imbalance there. Then they have this 3-game stint in a row where they drew with MacArthur. They won 2-0 against Brisbane. They lost 2-1 against Melbourne City.
So 3 games in a row in Australia, win, draw, loss. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's just holding steady.
And still top of the table.
And you emerge from that top of the table with a home game against a team that is broke. So I won't ask you why the Mariners are broke, how the Mariners are broke. I don't care, but you said they're broke. I'm going to say they're broke. Shout out to the Mariners, and hopefully Storm Rue, most notable Kiwi at the Mariners.
Yeah, he's the one left.
Hopefully he's okay. I don't know what to say. Um, then we go Wellington Phoenix men and women. We'll come back around to them.
Well, can
Uh,
I just say on the Auckland FC attacking dip with the 1.9 goals per game last time, 1.5 this time, it's not a big dip. It's the kind of thing where if you score a couple, like you score four in your next game, that's going to balance a lot of that out. Um, but I think the main difference between last year and this year, I was just thinking about this as you were saying that. I think the main difference is not like there is a bit of a stylistic difference with playing like because sometimes they had Max Mata last time, sometimes they had Guillermo Mai, whatever. Like there was a little bit of a different look to them at times in that they did play with a big target man when Mata was available, but he was only available like half of the time, maybe a third of the time. So they did alternate a bit there. There was maybe a bit more variety by necessity there, less because of design, but more just because of which players they had available. But like, yes, they've gone all in on having a target man now with Cosgrove even further down that path. Lachlan Brook as well as a new player. Jesse Randall is not a new player, but he's newly like first 11, next most essential attacking creative player after Lachlan Brook in this team. In fact, when they combine as they did on the weekend for that beautiful pass from Jesse Randall to set up Lachlan Brook's goal there, that alone is a very big source of how that team is. They don't score a lot of goals, which doesn't have either Randall or Brook involved. So I think that over reliance on basically those two and maybe a bit of Sam Cosgrove as well is part of it. But I think the reason there's an over reliance is because they've stopped scoring goals from defense as well. Like we haven't seen who has scored goals this year. Let me look at the list. So we got 6 for Lachlan Brook. We got 4 for Jesse Randall. We got 5 for Sam Cosgrove. That's almost all of it. Louis Estrada does have 2 goals. Guillermo Mai has 1 from a derby. Francis de Vries has 1. So like Sakai's got a few assists, hasn't scored. Elliott hasn't scored. Nato Peineke hasn't scored. Goodwood Rage, Dan Hall didn't score last year. Last year they were getting Logan Rogerson as well, pretty significant one there. He has 1 assist so far this season. I know he wasn't playing a lot of he's only really in the last month or two he's gotten back into the starting 11, but he hasn't scored a goal in that time. He scored 8 or 9 last year. They don't seem to have as many contributors in this way as they did last time. But hopefully Nando Peineke being back in the 11, at the very least, he gives you someone to aim for at set pieces, and he scored 3 or 4 last year from those scenarios. So maybe that's going to bring them back towards it. I don't know that they're missing players who can do those things. They've got the players. They just haven't had that from them for a little while. But Rogerson is the one I'm maybe a little more concerned about because they have played better when he's in the team, but he probably needs to start chipping in with a goal or two or even just a few more assists to hammer that down.
Well, Nando Peineke is going to have plenty of opportunities because every throw-in he goes into the box. It's a bit weird. But
I like it though.
yeah, like obviously his middle name's Zen, so anything he does is fantabulous. Rogerson not scoring goals to me is like a centre not scoring tries, but people around him are scoring tries and the team is good. It's one of those things like you're focusing on the goals. I think like assists are probably an important factor in there. And you're probably highlighting that Rogerson doesn't have many assists as well.
Yeah,
but,
1.
Yeah, but he's doing his job for the best team on the ladder. You could say Sydney FC are the best team because they've got a game in hand. But he's doing his job in a good team. And I'm not too worried about the goal stuff. And as you were mentioning some of those names, because I do remember, like I was saying, Jesse Randall, he's a midfielder. Logan Rogerson's a midfielder. This goes back to our formation shape chat. Because Auckland FC, like I imagine most teams, have different shapes and formations with and without the ball. So you're not playing one formation. You're not playing one shape. When Auckland FC do not have the ball, Jesse Randall's midfield, Logan Rogerson's midfield. So you got two banks of four, then you got Lockie Brook and Cosgrove in front of them without the ball. And I think Auckland FC have a good defense. And the work of Jesse Randall and Logan Rogerson in those wide positions help them have a good defense. And so it's like you could have, like maybe you have a Marley Francois on the right side of the field. Is he going to be as reliable defensively as Logan Rogerson? Because they offer the similar attacking juice. Like I don't think Marley Francois is going to have 5 goals instead of Rogerson. But Rogerson is being relied on to do that defensive work. And then when they don't have the ball, they get higher up the field. And usually Rogerson and Randall especially, are right on the opposition defensive line without the ball, which not only do these teams have a formation, a shape with and without the footy. So they're playing 2 different formations, right? So everyone say, oh, we're going to play this formation. Well, what are you doing with the ball? What are you doing without the ball? But there seems to be this idea in football that the team sheet, the formation on the team sheet is gospel. Why would any coach give you a team sheet with the formation they're going to play as an actual factual prediction of what we're going to do? That seems insane.
2 reasons. One is because they're lying to you, which is probably what you're hinting at.
Yeah.
Which, if you watch Wellington Phoenix games, they're the worst at this. Every game, it's like they do the little match graphic on the broadcast and it comes up in like a back four. Like they haven't played a proper back four. The last couple of weeks, they actually have sort of had a hybrid where they go alternate, but this is what you're saying as well. Formations change. They're like, they evolve through games. They're fluid things. That's one reason, is that it's to throw you off the thing. The other reason is that it's not important. Like they don't feel like they don't feel like there's a clue you can give to the other team by telling you. Like if you've given the right thing, it's because it's like, it doesn't seem harmful to say, because the formation the formation is just a starting point. What are you going to do within it? How are you going to perform in the game? Like those are the things that actually decide these things.
Yeah, but the way they're presented to the fan, to the viewer, is, and the commentators talk about it. So here's the team sheet we got today. The Wellington Phoenix are lining up with a back 3 and these blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. No, that's just what they told you.
Yeah, that's why I took note of it, is because it's wrong every single week. And it's like, you commentating on these guys every single week. How have you not noticed that they're not giving you an accurate team sheet?
It's like, it's one of those things, as you said, like then the formation changes because we bring in subs, because we need to score a goal, because we're going to defend. So it's like, I find a lot of the formation chat to be very basic, and it doesn't really highlight what's going on in the field. And I do use Auckland FC as an example, because I did say last week that Randall's a midfielder. He's a midfielder in defense. He's a wide striker in attack, which only makes what Jesse Randall's doing even more crazy, because he's playing as a winger with the ball. And by winger, I mean like he's right up top. But without the ball...
Yeah, level with the striker.
Yeah, he's doing hearty, gritty defensive work without the ball, and he's passing, and he's scoring goals. So shout out to Jesse Randall. Fair play to Rogerson. He's not doing that on the right side of the field, but I do think he's doing his job, and I'm not too worried about the goal stuff there. Wellington Phoenix, or else we're going to run out of time, so we need to slide over to the Wellington Phoenix. Just like, these are the type of games where you're like, there's still some funk here. There's still some juice. There's still some life. There's still some mana, where you've like the Ruthe and Nagasawa midfield. They're going well. Like Nagasawa was an absolute trooper. You've talked about him a bit. We know what we're going to get from Ruthe. And I do feel like there is space for, like, their defense doesn't have a good reputation, but I think they're in a good space personnel wise with Mandrake. Now you got Billy the Yusso back. Isaac Hughes is in good form. I like we joke about Sheridan a bit, but at least you have someone who you can plug into any of these positions, which is useful when you're trying to maintain a decent level in the A-League. Corbin Piper's fast.
Faster, she's definitely strong.
Well, I saw him burn a couple of Sydney FC defenders.
Yeah, there
on
was a
either side of the
runaway
field.
in that game where he blitzed past a dude, which
The thing I was thinking about, my main thing for Wellington Phoenix that I think is very interesting to watch is their passing connections in the attacking zones. Because I didn't even know if he's a good passer because he doesn't pass, right? Like, yeah, it's Eze. That's all good. Corbin Piper's not necessarily a good attacking passer in that space, right? Like, there are a few instances, most notably when he's cutting in from the left, he's got three players outside him on the right side of the field. He doesn't pass to them. All he had to do was pass to them, and he tries to take a shot. Like, it's not necessarily the passing accuracy, the weight of the pass, and all that stuff. It's, will you make the pass? Do you see the pass? Can you override your frothing, I'm going to score a goal? Can you override that with, I need to make the right pass here and now? So you've got two, like, I still find it a bit weird that we're like, the Lachlan Brook for Wellington Phoenix is Corbin Piper.
cut it and shoot.
Yeah, I think that's a bit weird because Corbin Piper doesn't have, he's more robust, he's more dynamic, but he doesn't have the craft, the footballing craft of Lockie Brook, which is fantastic, is fine because Lachlan Brook's one of the best players in the A-League, so that's all good. But that might be an issue if you've also got Eze, who's not a passer. So it's like you've got two players there who in theory should be combining with each other as well as the players around them, but passing isn't their forte.
Yeah, Eze almost never. I noticed this on the weekend as well. I spotted this independently. He never lays the ball off. You know, he does a lot of getting the ball with his back to goal, defender on his back, holding it up kind of thing. But he always spins out of it, and then he will pass if it's to hit like a forward pass to a winger running up or something like that. Probably because that ball's coming back in. If you play an overlapping winger, they're going to cross it, and you're going to get on the end of that cross. It's coming back to you. It's almost like a pass to yourself, one step removed. But he doesn't lay it back to the midfield ever, which is weird because all the midfielders are constantly doing that. Nagasawa's always bouncing it around, up, down, and backwards, and Nadjarine does that a fair bit of like trying to drop into a pocket, collect the ball, laid off, try to run off. Maybe not as much as he could, but certainly when Finra Conchi was playing as the attacking midfielder, he's doing that all the time. Corbin Piper does it a little bit. I got annoyed by that moment a bit when you're describing where he had that one where he beats the defender, he charges into the box. I sort of felt like, yes, the better option is to pass to the guys who were like three guys all open to his right. But he had also he created that chance himself. I felt like he was in the box. It wasn't like it was a blocked shot, no room to get it off. Like he had a clear shot. He just hit it straight at the keeper. It wasn't a good shot, and he should have passed. But I also was like,
sorry, shooting. Yeah. That's the other. Like this is Corbin Piper. This is not Lachlan Brook. So shooting isn't his. Like I'm not thinking Corbin Piper's going to whip that into the bottom corner. My expectation for Corbin Piper, respectfully, is he is going to blast it, and that might go top bins, it might go over the top, and he might just kick it straight at the goalie.
Or might be parried back out to one of those three open guys anyway.
Assist, good passer, good pass off the goalie.
Yeah, he's a chaos machine in those areas. So just let him make some chaos. But the thing that wasn't what annoyed me. I sort of felt like, yeah, you're entitled to have a shot there, but also you probably should have passed. What annoyed me was seeing like Eze and Armiento waving their arms and like screaming at him for not passing. specifically Armiento, because like 30 seconds later, Armiento did the same thing where he ran forward and shot when he should have passed. It's like, I'll cop it from Eze because he's the striker who's trying to get on the end of those things. It's like, yeah, Piper, you probably should respect the rankings there. But Armiento can't yell at him for not doing that and then do the exact same thing himself. He's always trying to shoot from everywhere. And I want him to shoot from everywhere, but it's like self-awareness, bro. If you're going to yell at someone for not doing it, you can't be yelling at them for the thing that you don't do either. Also, it's just never a great look when guys are yelling at each other on the pitch, you know.
But like, who's doing their mindfulness, meditation, self-awareness in the heat of battle?
That's when you need it most.
Yeah, but it's when you're not going to have it. So
Yep.
That's all right. But I just find it fascinating, that combination. Like, surely there's a better combination. And we saw it, I think, early in the season when Corbin Piper's coming off the bench or playing one of his, like, a position that better suits his skill set. But I think there's, like, either they figure out a better combination together or you start to tinker with the lineup. I just find it, because the Cosgrove Brook combination is good because they're very different players. Corbin Piper isn't Eze. Like, I don't know if he's got the same, like, bag of tricks that Eze's got, because what you're saying about Eze laying it off, he might not lay it off, but he also might just dribble past the whole team. Like, he can do that. We've seen him do that a few times in those situations. But it's like Eze and Corbin Piper are a bit too similar, where they're very physical. They want to run with the ball. Neither of them is setting each other up, is a nice summary point there. Wellington Phoenix woman.
Well, I think there is a solution there with that, because I've seen I certainly noticed it a lot on the weekend, where Alex Ruthe would drop into, like, alongside the back three a lot. Like, he just seems to be playing a little bit deeper recently. And I think I like that role for him better, even though he actually got an assist in this game. Although he got an assist because his first touch in the box was so bad he couldn't get a shot off, so he decided to cross it instead, and then crossed it beautifully, and Isaac Hughes headed it in. So it worked out. But I just like him better when he's playing behind, like, not with a midfield partner, but behind the other midfielders. So if you have him just sitting in front of the back three and shielding, and then Nagasawa gets to play slightly further forward, and then you can put someone else next to Nagasawa, be that Ruthe, be that Rob Conchi, like a couple different, the new fella, the Norwegian guy who's coming in soon. He's another option who could play that role. And then what would that leave you? 3 at the back, 2 out wide, 3 in the midfield. 3 plus 2 plus 3 leaves you 2 left over, I think. So then you've got Eze compared. You could put Corbin Piper next to him, or you could put maybe someone who's got a little bit more finesse, like Najarine or Miliusinic or whoever alongside him there, where you get a bit more. You overstock the craft in midfield. You take the pressure, like any kind of creative pressure of Alex Ruthe, and just ask him to do the thing he's best at, which is screening the defense. That also gives your wider centre backs more room. If Ruthe is able to drop in, they can step up every now and then. If a defender's got the ball and there's 30 meters of open space in front of him because the other team's dropped off, he doesn't have to feel like, well, I've just got to pass it sideways to the next defender. He can just step up and take that space because Ruthe has got you covered. Allows the wing backs to push up really high as well because Ruthe has got you covered. Like, just give him that full-on defense.
You are paused.
Well, it looks like Sheridan will start ahead of Kelly Hill. I kind of prefer Hill, but those are guys who can step up into that space as well and make things happen that way. So I think treating Ruthe as a pivot would help sort of create that, help unlock a few other things around that, which is why I think I can't say I would like to see that from them, because I think we did see that from them on the weekend. So that might be a little tweak that Chiefy is sort of leaning upon a bit more.
Wellington Phoenix woman, 2-0. Zoe Benson, Pia Vlock. I think the opposition had a red card maybe for a bit of a rugby.
They did.
Action in the middle of the field. I'm still amazed at how physical and just gritty this Wellington Phoenix woman group is. And Benson and Vlok are, something I've been thinking about as we come to the end of the podcast is like Macy Fraser. She has been, how can I say it? She has struggled to find a spot in the team, the squad, the squad at two different clubs now. Because she was,
including the Phoenix twice, because there was before she had her breakthrough season, she was in the academy team and couldn't get a go until Paul Temple came in.
Yeah, but then she started playing, and she was an A-League player and all that stuff. Then she goes overseas, but she had to take a break from training. Like that, she was
sort of.
Well, she wasn't playing.
She wasn't. She got there was a coaching change, was the first major thing that happened while she was in Utah. Then she was injured for a long while, because remember, she got injured at the Olympics. She was injured leading into the Olympics, rushed back, got injured again on her other ankle. Last year comes back in 2025 saying she's fully fit leading into it, but the different coach didn't really want to pick her, and when he did, he was playing her on the wing. She didn't stop. She did get injured for a bit. She missed a few months with a knee injury, but then after she came back, she didn't stop training. She was always training, but he stopped selecting her, and then started saying weird things about attitude and whatever.
Well,
didn't seem legit, but yeah.
Well, what's happened now?
Now she's come back to the Wellington Phoenix on a sort of a bit of a spontaneous thing.
No.
She was available and they signed her, but then she's
Where is she now? She is not in the squad.
Yeah, she's having a break somewhere in Christchurch.
Exactly. So it was the weird stuff from the previous coach, but without getting into nitty gritty, the same thing has happened here in Wellington Phoenix, where she was in, what club was it?
Utah Royals.
At Utah, she was playing, and then she wasn't playing, and then it was like a mystery why she's not playing, and she wasn't part of that top tier group. She returns to the Wellington Phoenix because that happened, and at the Wellington Phoenix, she has been unable to make an impact and has then taken a break. Now, there might be mental health, there might be all sorts of things. My point here is that that's happened at two different clubs, which is its own thing. But meanwhile, there are youngsters who are getting fantastic opportunities. There are youngsters who are contributing to winning football at the Wellington Phoenix. Zoe Benson, Pia Vlok. We've seen Emma Main just get lots of game time under Bev Priestman. I think the players who are getting opportunities under Bev Priestman, based on what I see on the field, they can handle the physicality that Bev Priestman wants. It's not about working hard. It's about, can you compete at a very high level in training? Because that's the issue with Macy Fraser, is that
hers is complicated. It's hard to say, but it's like those. I don't know saying the two things, but there's another. Like I don't really. I think the Utah one is kind of its own separate thing.
Let me say it this way: two different coaches have come to similar conclusions.
Well, that's why I was going to add to that, is say, what if it's three? Because she couldn't get a go under Gemma Lewis beforehand, and Nat Lawrence. With the initial sort of first two seasons of the Phoenix, which maybe is its own, like, maybe you can just say they were, well, I don't think you can. She was in the academy team at the time.
Like, she's very young.
They also coached the under-20 team, where Macy Fraser, who was part of the under-17 bronze medalist team, starting a lot of games there, playing good minutes, did not play a single minute at the next under-20 at her under-20 World Cup. She was in the squad, she was there, she didn't get picked for any of those games. So arguably, there's three instances of this.
So we got at least two coaches who have seen something that just needs to be chilled out on. But at the same time, the Wellington Phoenix, the players who are getting the opportunities are very physical, because Pia Vlok her defense is as good as her offense. She will tackle. She will rip in. She's 17 years old. She's got a bigger body for sure, but she is doing the physical job that Bev Priestman wants. And based on how this Wellington Phoenix team plays, and you only need to look at the senior players, Mackenzie Barry, Brooke Nunn, Walker, Vandermeer, Wall, Jale, like these ladies are very physical. They're going to push you off the ball. They're going to bully you. But at Auckland FC style of football, that's a Bev Priestman winning professional style. And I was only like the Macy Fraser stuff, we can park that, but that was just used as an example because you have other young players who are getting opportunities. And I think that is because they are fitting that Bev Priestman style, and it is a winning style from Bev Priestman. We will push you off the ball. The amount of times you see the Wellington Phoenix defender, they're behind the Canberra player in this instance, and they're getting a foot in. They're touching the ball before the opposition touches it. Whether it's a shoulder, whether it's a foot between the legs, whether it's stepping in front. And then you go, okay, we lost Samba, and we not only recruit, it's a good bit of recruitment for Michaela Woods, but the environment is such where Michaela Woods comes in, and she's like, compared to someone like Macy Fraser, she's more experienced. She's got more, she's just a bit more adult, mature in how she's built. She comes in and it's an environment where she can contribute straight away. Because like, with respect to Samba, with respect to the nation of Nepal, don't see a whole lot of change in how the Wellington Phoenix women are operating with Michaela Woods as one of their strikers. She's slotted into that team perfectly. And like part of that's physicality. Part of that's like how she competes for the ball, as well as just the soccer football skills. And again, another player who's come in mid-season and slotted in nicely is Emma Pynenberg. Her and Grace Jarley, like we've got an all-Kiwi midfield duo, depending on the formation, depending on the shape and how it is manipulated. Emma Pynenberg, Grace Jarley, they're winning the ball, they're moving the ball, and they're playing at a high level as well. But Emma Pynenberg came in mid-season and is just part of that group. To me, she's a first 11 player, and she has added value. Whereas Michaela Woods been like a like-for-like replacement with Samba, Emma Pynenberg, to me, has added value to this Wellington Phoenix women's team.
Yeah, those have both been really nice additions, which I'm sure doesn't... I'm sure that doesn't encourage Macy Fraser a whole lot, sit on the background seeing other players coming in and doing well in her position, other players being signed and added to her position as well. I'm not really sure. Because the thing is, I think she could do all the physicality aspects of it that Bev Priestman would demand. She was actually, when she had that season with the Phoenix, she was their best tackler. A lot of that was like pressing out of midfield and winning the ball, or rushing back from midfield, tracking back and winning. Like, she was very good at that stuff. But it seems like there is some... it also seems like maybe that was a signing that was lumped upon Bev Priestman rather than something she asked for. It was more like the club being like, "Hey, a former fan favorite's available. Let's go bounce." So it probably is the best thing for her just to step aside and like get her head clear after the Utah experience. But it's like I can't project where that goes from here. However, don't have to, because they're winning without it. And they were also winning without CJ Bott on the weekend, which is, she got injured. They'd had a couple of big wins. She got injured. They had a draw and a loss immediately after that. Well, they won without CJ Bott in this one. She is the epitome of the Bev Priestman physicality aspect. She's the very definition of that, because she is not only the captain of the team, not only is that like the best thing about her game is how physical she can play. But they moved her from fullback into midfield in order to make the most of that as well. And I don't know. There might be a conversation about whether she needs to stay in midfield or not, because Grace Jarley has been quietly excellent throughout the season. And Emma Pleinenberg, when she plays there, does not bring you anywhere near the same sort of defensive solidity, the strength, the ability to cover the pitch. But she's the best, like most fluid, genuine midfield passer of those. Not like Jale has the long ball, but Pleinenberg links up and plays the ball, collects it back again, moves it, shifts it out, finds space, those types of things. And they do look better while she's out there. I also think they look better whenever Mania Elliott is at wing back, whether it's left or right wing back, doesn't matter. And I wish she was starting every game, but I also appreciate like Lara Wall's done nothing wrong, and it's very hard to drop one or the other. So they've sort of been alternating, but Mackenzie Barry did get injured in this game and went off at halftime. So that is an interesting one because that centre back combination, the three of them, has been outstanding throughout. Mackenzie Barry, Ellie Walker, Marissa Vandermeer. If that gets broken up, that might be an interesting little, is that a chink in the armor, or can they find someone else to just slot in and do the job? I mean, it might be as simple as what we saw in the second half against whoever it was on the weekend, Canberra, was that Lara Wall dropped in, Elliott came onto the wing back, and then Lara Wall just played as the left-sided back three. You could put CJ Bott there. Like she could play as a right, and where Ellie Walker is probably as the right-sided centre back. You'd certainly get a lot of sort of Rebecca Stott-esque dribbling out of defense and into midfield from CJ Bott if you put her in that position. I think she could do a pretty excellent job at that. But we'll see. Hopefully Mackenzie Barry is fine and it's not an issue. But that maybe is the one area where you might say, I don't know if there's certainly as long as Tiana Jaber is injured, but I think Jaber is a step below the other three that they've got starting anyway. That might be an interesting thing to see if there's a decision to be made, but we've already seen Bev Priestman be able to coax very good performances out of players in different positions to what they're used to. Difference between her versatility and Chiefy's versatility is that she picks a different position and lets Grace Jale just play every game in midfield, whereas Matt Sheridan will just from week to, or Corbin Piper from week to week will play a bunch of different ones, but versatility is versatility, and it helps to be able to be available as you can. And Pia Vlock and Zoe Benson popping up with those goals late in that game. Spectacular stuff, especially because that's how they were losing away games basically their whole existence, right? Good performances, concede a late goal, you lose 1-0 or 2-0. They did the opposite. They finally actually did that to someone else with a couple of Kiwi teenagers scoring the goals.
Wellington Phoenix play against Adelaide at home on Sunday, and who would have thought the drone lady would be playing the Yellow Fever drums in victory celebration a few years ago. So shout out to Bev Priestman, big up to you. Appreciate your eyeballs and eardrums. Kia kaha, stay beautiful, church.